Good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you again. Can somebody just give me a thumbs up in the comments or the chat to let me know that you can see and hear me okay? Brilliant, thank you. Good to see you again. Now, we've got a fair bit to get through today, so if it's okay with you, I'll get straight into it and begin with a simple thought. And that is, if working harder was really the answer, then most business owners would already have the business they want, wouldn't they? Just think about it, because most business owners that I know are not lazy. They're not short on commitment. They're not sitting around waiting for somebody else to come along and fix the business. It's quite the opposite. They're starting early. They're finishing late. They're answering messages at home after dinner. They're carrying staff problems, customer problems, cash flow pressures, operational challenges, family pressures sometimes, and the decisions about the future. All these things are on a loop that's spinning around in their head. So if hard work was really the missing ingredient, then most business owners would already be miles ahead, yet many are not. In fact, some are actually working harder than ever, but their business doesn't appear to be getting any easier. Their hours are still long. Their team is still too dependent on the leader. The cash pressure is still there. The small problems continue to return, which really leads us to an uncomfortable possibility. Perhaps the problem isn't how hard you're working. Perhaps the problem is what you're working on. Because working hard on the wrong business problem won't fix the business. It will simply help you manage the symptoms for a little while longer. And that's just exhausting. So today I want to talk about one of the biggest traps that I see in small and medium-sized business. And that's being busy for the sake of busyness. And by the end of this live, I want you to have a really simple way to identify whether you are actually solving the real problem in the business or simply managing the latest symptom. And actually, more powerfully, I want you to know where to direct your attention, focus, and energy next, because your next breakthrough might not require more effort. It might just require better diagnosis. Now, one of the reasons busyness is, for me, so dangerous is that it can feel productive, because busyness gives us instant feedback. You answer an email, done. You fix the staff rota, done. You calm down an unhappy customer, done. You jump in and help the team that are falling behind, done. You stay late and finish work that somebody else didn't complete, done. Every one of those actions gives your brain a small reward. It gives you that hit of dopamine, and that helps you feel useful. You feel needed. You feel as though the business has survived another day because you were the superhero that was needed to save it. And that feeling can also be a warning sign, because if the business only survives because you personally absorb all the pressure, you don't really have a business to be becoming stronger. You have a business that has learned to use you as the system. I think I need to repeat that one. You may have a business that's learned to use you as the system. Whenever something goes wrong, you step in. Whenever somebody is uncertain, they ask you. Whenever standards slip, you fix the work. Whenever a decision needs to be made, it always returns back to your desk. The business learns that the safest and quickest solution is always the leader. But that's not leadership, is it? That's dependency. And dependency on the owner is one of the most expensive hidden costs in any business, because it costs time, it costs profit, it costs energy, it costs sleep, it costs family time, it costs confidence. And eventually it will limit the growth of the business. So here's the first question that I would like you to consider today. Has your business really become stronger, or have you simply become better at carrying it? Has your business really become stronger, or have you simply become better at carrying it? Because those are not the same thing. Let me put a bit more meat on the bone. For me, a symptom is the problem you can see, feel, or complain about. The root cause is the problem that continues to return. So the symptom is visible, the root cause is often hidden beneath the surface. So for instance, an owner might say, we don't have enough sales. And that might be true. But lack of sales isn't the root cause. The real issue might be poor sales conversion rate. It might be weak follow-up. It might be an unclear target market. It might be discounted to win the sale. It might be the sales team are chasing the wrong prospects. It might be that the offer isn't strong enough. It might be that the business already has enough leads, but nobody's nurturing those leads properly. Another owner might say, my team keep interrupting me. Again, that might be true, but the root cause might not be that the team are capable or unwilling to take responsibility. It could be that the standards are unclear. It could be that decision-making authority has never been defined. It could be that there's no proper meeting rhythm within the business. It could be that people haven't been trained how to solve problems. Or it could be that the leader has spent years teaching the team that bringing every problem to them is the quickest route to an answer. Another owner might say cash flow is tight. So the symptom is cash pressure. But the root cause might be underpricing. It might be poor margins. It might be slow invoicing. It might be weak debt follow-up. It might be too much work in progress. It might be excessive stock. It might be rework. Or it could simply be that nobody's looking at the numbers early enough to take action. So this is why working harder can be dangerous when you haven't identified the real issue. And the truth is, you can work harder chasing sales, but still not improve profit. You can work harder helping the team, but still not build any accountability. You can work harder doing the work and still not build the systems. You can work harder serving the customers, but still not build a business that can operate without it being dependent on you, the owner. So you remain active, you remain busy, you may even feel productive, but the underlying problem is going to come back. It remains. So just imagine for a second, let's think of a scenario. Imagine you've got a hole in your roof, and then every time it rains, water comes through the ceiling. So you can grab the bucket, you can get the mop, you can clean the floor, you can move all the furniture, you can dry everything out. And when you're finished, the room looks better. So you've worked hard, you've taken action, you may even feel pleased about how quickly you responded to it. But what happens the next time it rains? The floor gets soaked again because you've cleaned the symptom, the wet floor, but you haven't fixed the root problem, the roof. And the same kind of scenario plays out all over the place in business. The owner can become incredibly skilled, metaphorically skilled at mopping the floor. They work longer hours because the workflow is broken. They check every job because standards are unclear. They discount to generate cash because the business model is not profitable enough. They can hire another person before clarifying the role, the numbers, and the expected results. They can invest more money into marketing before understanding why the existing inquiries aren't being converted. They can take every decision back on their own plate because it feels quicker than delegating to someone else. Now, each of those decisions may get them through the day. It may even get them through the month. But when that behavior is repeated for years, something really dangerous happens. The owner accidentally trains the business to remain exactly as it is. And you can often become highly skilled at surviving a problem without ever really solving it. So perhaps the question isn't, how do I get through this week? Perhaps a better question is, what do I need to do to change this problem so it never stops, it stops appearing every week? And that's actually a very different leadership question. Let me give you an example from the type of work I do with business leaders. I'll keep the details general because it's the principles that matter. So I work with an owner who was convinced that his team didn't take enough ownership. I seem to remember him saying something along the lines of, "Kev, they keep coming back to me. Nobody wants to make a decision. I've got to check everything." So it was easy to understand his frustration. But when we look beneath the symptom, the problem wasn't that his people didn't care. It was that the business didn't have any clear decision-making framework. And that meant people didn't know what they were allowed to decide. They didn't understand where their authority started and where it stopped. They didn't have a clear picture of what good or great performance looked like within the business. There was no consistent meeting rhythm where issues were discussed before they became urgent. And because the owner had spent years jumping in solving the problems, the team had basically learned that the quickest and safest route was to ask the leader. So it turns out, it's an irony, the irony was the leader was complaining about a behavior he'd actually accidentally trained. And that was really uncomfortable for him to recognize. But it was also empowering because once we accept that we may have contributed to the pattern, we can then begin to change it. So the answer wasn't for the owner to work harder. It wasn't another speech telling the team that they need to take ownership. It was simply telling people to use, it wasn't simply telling people to use more initiative. The answer was to introduce clearer role expectations. It was to clarify which decisions people could make and which they couldn't make. We established short weekly accountability meetings. We created a simple issues list and we introduced a rule. And that rule was that don't simply bring the owner a problem. Bring the problem, explain why you think or what you think is causing it, and at least 3 possible solutions. So that meant the owner still had to lead, but he no longer needed to be the all-knowing answer machine. And that's the difference between working harder versus working on the right thing. As the leader of a business, we all have 3 incredibly valuable assets. We've got our attention, focus, and our energy. So attention is what you notice. And if you only notice the urgent noise, you'll continue feeding that urgency. So if you only notice sales, you might miss margin. If you only notice team mistakes, you may miss a training issue or a broken process that needs, or the broken process that's behind those mistakes. If you only look at the cash in the bank, you may miss the leading indicators that have been predicting the cash flow problem several weeks back. Your attention determines what enters your awareness. And the thing is, you can't improve what you're unwilling or unable to see. Focus is what you choose, and this is where many leaders struggle. They try to fix everything at the same time: sales, marketing, cash flow, recruitment, customer service, systems, team performance, culture, pricing, operations, personal time. Every one of those areas matters, but when everything becomes priority, nothing is going to receive enough attention to change anything properly. But successful owners learn to choose. They identify the next most important constraint. And they decide what deserves their attention now. And then they stay with it long enough to produce a result. And energy is what you execute. So energy is not simply working longer hours, it's the quality of effort applied to the right priority. It's follow through, it's consistency, it's rhythm, it's accountability. It's being willing to stop doing 10 low value activities so that you can properly execute one or two actions that are really capable of changing the business. Now, when your attention, focus, and energy is scattered, your business feels busy. But when your attention, focus, and energy are aligned, your business begins to change. So with that in mind, I want to share with you a simple 5-question audit that you can use in your own business going forward. Now, the first thing you want to do is choose one recurring frustration, not 10, just one. In actual fact, choose the one issue that seems to keep coming back, and then run that issue through these 5 questions. And question 1 is, what result am I trying to achieve? And be really specific. Don't simply say, I want the business to be better. Better in what way? Do you want more profit? Do you want more consistent cash flow? Do you want fewer mistakes? Do you want less rework? A better sales conversion rate? More team accountability? Excuse me. Sorry. Fewer interruptions? More time away from the day-to-day operations? Name the result. Name it very clearly, because a vague target creates vague actions. And then question 2 is, what symptoms keep showing up? So write down the recurring frustrations. For instance, the same customer complaint, the same staff interruption, the same last-minute panic, the same cash shortage, the same quality issues, the same missed deadline, the same tasks that keep returning to your desk. Don't judge it just yet, just simply identify what keeps repeating. And then question 3 is, what might be causing it? And this is where honesty becomes really, really important. Don't automatically blame the easiest person. Look at the system, look at the standards, look at the communication, look at the numbers, look at the training, look at the follow-up, look at the role clarity, look at the meeting rhythm, and also look at your own habits as the owner. What are you doing, allowing, or avoiding that may be contributing to the pattern? Because sometimes the owner is not the cause of the original problem, but their response might be allowing the problem to continue. Question 4 is, if I fix the root cause, what would stop repeating? And this is a really powerful question, because if your proposed solution only provides relief once, it's not addressing the root cause. But if solving the issue would prevent the same frustration from returning every day, every week, every month, you're probably getting closer. So ask yourself, what would no longer happen if we solved this properly? What would no longer happen if we solved this properly? Would the interruptions stop? Would the errors reduce? Would the invoices go out sooner? Would our margins improve? Would decisions get made without you? would the same complaints disappear? Because the goal isn't simply to feel better today, the goal is to change the pattern. And question 5 is, what one action deserves my attention, focus, and energy? What one action deserves my attention, focus, and energy? Not 20 actions, one clear next move. Now, that might be creating a weekly scorecard. It might be clarifying decision-making authority. It might be reviewing pricing and gross margin. It might be installing a structured sales follow-up process. It might be documenting a handover process. It might be defining what success looks like within a particular role. It could be creating a proper meeting rhythm so that issues get identified before they turn into a firefighting exercise. Now, the point is not to do more. The point is to do what changes the pattern. And think about the compounding impact of that. So if you solve one recurring problem properly over the next 6 weeks, how much time could that save you over the next 12 months? In actual fact, not only you, for your team as well. And this is where better thinking creates better results. And that actually brings us nicely into a real leadership shift. Because many owners measure their value by the number of problems they personally solve. They feel valuable when everybody needs them. They might feel productive when they're involved in every single decision. They feel responsible when they personally check everything. And in the early days of business, that may be necessary because you're selling, you're delivering, you're invoicing, you're recruiting, you're training, you're following up, you're solving the problems. You do whatever's required to keep the business moving forward. But the habits that built the early business can eventually become the habits that hold the future business back. So at a certain point, every owner's job must change. I'll repeat that because it really matters. It really, really matters. At a certain point, the owner's job must change. You must move from being the chief problem solver to becoming the builder of a business. You build the people, you build the systems, you build the standards, you build the reporting rhythms, you build accountability. You build a culture where people understand what matters, what's expected of them, and how that success is going to be measured. So you remain active, you remain involved, but you're no longer reacting to whatever's shouting the loudest. So you're leading the business towards a better design. And that's how you can create more control, more profit, more time, and ultimately more freedom of choice. And this is where the idea of personal best becomes so important, because becoming your personal best doesn't mean you're going to be doing more and more until you've got nothing left to give. It doesn't mean working longer hours than everybody else. It doesn't mean carrying every problem personally. The personal best version of you is not the person that carries the most. It's the leader who becomes better at identifying what really matters. The leader who asks better questions, the leader who confronts the real issue, the leader who builds capability in other people, the leader who creates systems that make success repeatable, the leader who directs the attention, focus, and energy towards the work that really changes the business. Because the purpose is not simply to improve the business, it's to become the leader that your future business needs. And your future business doesn't need a more exhaustive version of you. It needs a more deliberate version of you, a more disciplined version of you, a leader who no longer mistakes movement for progress. Okay, so here's your momentum move for today. Before you spend another week working harder, stop and ask yourself, am I solving the real problem or am I managing the symptom again? Are you fixing the roof or are you becoming increasingly efficient at mopping the floor? Choose one recurring issue in your business and then work it through the 5 questions. What results are you trying to improve? What symptom keeps returning? What might be causing it? What would stop repeating if you solve the real issue? And what one action deserves your attention, focus, and energy right now? Don't try to fix everything. Choose the issue that, when solved, is going to make several other issues or problems easier or unnecessary, because good intentions don't grow a business. Being busy doesn't necessarily grow a business. It's clear action on the right things that creates progress. And the truth is, your next breakthrough might not come from more effort. It might require you to stop treating the symptom and finally solve the problem that keeps creating it. So, if you're tired of being incredibly busy without seeing the results you want, maybe it's time for you to step back and look at your business a bit differently. And that's exactly the type of conversation that I like to have with business owners. A conversation where we look at your time, we look at your team, we look at your money, and we look at your systems, and then we separate out the urgent noise from the work that will genuinely move your business forward. So we're going to identify the real constraints so that we can create practical steps you're able to implement, because you don't need another 20 things adding to your to-do list, but because you need clarity about which things deserve to be on your list in the first place. So take a moment today to identify the pattern, find the root cause, choose your next move, and to take action and get results. And keep building the leader that your business or your future business needs. Okay, I think I've given you a bit of food for thought there, food for thought over the weekend. So thank you once again for joining me. Have a cracking bank holiday weekend, and I'll see you again next week on Winning the Game of Business Live.